Hello. Welcome back to Let's Talk Ray Bradbury. If you're not subscribed to our channel already, please do. But here on Let's Talk Ray Bradbury, what we do is we go through the long and storied career of author Ray Bradbury, and I've been trying to review all of his short stories, but I'm up to the 171st of his tales, which is also number 71 of 100 in the collection, The Stories of Ray Bradbury. Today's tale is the best of all possible worlds from 1960. The way these reviews go is I give a brief synopsis of the action of the story and then sort of wrap up with some thoughts and feelings and sort of what the story can still mean today, many years after its release. So, after seeing a young man run off of the train, chasing a woman, two men sitting on that train, a younger and an older man, begin to talk about relationships. They each tell a story dealing with a man trying to sort of deal with his need for certain things in life, certain satisfactions, and there's hints at the fact that maybe it's sexual, but it's not. It's more than that, as you can sort of see from the tales. The old man tells a story about a man he calls Smith, who he meets on numerous occasions, and it seems to be that he has many mistresses. The man says he has many wives, and he sees them around the world sort of on these business trips, and he's having a great time, and he's sort of satisfying his need to be with a bunch of different types of women. But then he reveals that, in fact, they're all the same woman. That woman is his one true wife, and she's an actress. And this actress, he sort of coaxed her to come off the stage, and eventually she came to see this sort of job, this sort of acting career, as the ultimate acting gig, because she gets to be as many different people as she wants and sort of really stretch her acting skills. And yet he is also satisfied because he's able to be with a bunch of different types of women. The young man then tells a story which is sort of less savory, and it involves meeting a man who has a beautiful, talkative, worldly wife, very powerful woman, and he's very proud of her. But then he also gets caught sort of in a seedy downtown area, back alley, and he's spending a couple nights a week with this woman who is mute and sort of frumpy and not at all the type of woman that the first woman was, but yet he seems to gain satisfaction from their time together. The trip ends. Both men get off the train and they walk across the platform towards the cars, and they see two cars parked, each with a family in it, a different woman, and they wonder if they'd just been duped, if the other had been telling the story of his own true life rather than telling the story of somebody else. A bit of a role-playing there, if you will. So the story is a brilliant sort of little switcheroo tale, where these two men tell stories, and it becomes apparent to me, at least, though Bradbury tries to leave it ambiguous, that he's in fact talking about each other. The young man, in fact, probably has a mistress, and the old man has the wife who is the actress and has lived many different lives with her, sort of through this sort of bizarre type of role-playing. Bradbury was writing in 1960, but you have to wonder how this tale would be received in 2022, with sort of the Me Too movement, as well as just a sort of general behavior in society where it's like we're being told that all men are evil and all their needs are chauvinist, and we're not dealing with these things. We're not dealing with these issues, and I think it's become dangerous because it's leaving a lot of men sort of confused about what is acceptable, and sort of you're being told that what you feel you need is unacceptable, and it's very interesting, and I can sort of relate to it. Relationships are hard, and it's hard to find balance, and this whole idea of a sort of a monogamous society, it's tough. There's temptations, but there's also just general needs, and you're sort of expected to suppress them. And, how does this work out? And what about gay couples? That's a big issue these days, sort of the mainstreaming of homosexual relationships. What happens with the differences between men and women relationships if you're dealing with two men or two women? Does one assume the other's role across gender type? or do they both fight for sort of the same things, but it doesn't work because each one needs it instead of one needing it? And sort of how does this whole dynamic work? It's very interesting. We're talking about it here in fictional terms, but it's probably worth sort of a scholastic, collegiate, academic sort of social experiment, sort of understand how these sort of relationships work. I'm a single guy. I've had a few multi-year relationships with women that I found difficult to sort of deal with, and by contrast, my thing was that I had a hard time sort of giving up who I was to be who they wanted me to be. But on the other hand, I had friends from my high school days and college days who I felt like whenever they entered into relationships, the old them switched off and they suddenly became Mr. How do I please you? To sort of make their relationships work, almost desperate. And I don't communicate with many of them today. I wonder sort of how their relationships work now. Are they happy, or are they feeling that sort of 7-year itch, as they call it? It's very intriguing stuff. And, Bradbury manages to sort of put all these questions, all these balls up in the air in just a few pages, 4 or 5 pages. And it's quite brilliant the way that he does this. And as always, it seems much more simple than it is. He was a deceptively simple writer who managed to sort of bring up a lot of different issues without actually preaching to you about those issues, which I think is very important because people don't want to feel like they're being preached to. So, as with many of Bradbury's tales, especially these ones that are not science fiction, it's probably more relevant today than it's ever been. And being a universal story, I think it'll always remain irrelevant unless modern society finally succeeds in destroying gender and we all become alike, and nobody ever gets what they want in this sort of weird quest for equality at all costs. People giving up basically their gender roles that a lot of people feel sort of inclined to, and after being told that, no, this is wrong. So what do? You're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. That is The Best of All Possible Worlds from 1960. Tune in next time. Please subscribe. And we will discuss The One Who Waits. So be sure to tune in and see what that is about. So thanks for tuning in, and I will see you again soon.